Hello everyone, my name is Charlie PAUCHARD. I'm a French student. I'm here at the Universidad Autónoma de Madrid in Erasmus Exchange, and with my technology class we've done an exchange with the Columbia University of New York. My correspondent is Fabiola. She is studying medicine and she comes from Venezuela, and she actually lives in the United States with her family in Palm Beach, and now she's living in New York for her studies. So we did an interesting work during this exchange, and I wanted to explain to you why I'm doing this video. So first, I wanted to record an MP4 format of the Skype that we've done together, but it didn't work as I expected. So I had to improvise, and because the audio doesn't work, only the video, and the video was what was additional to my work, and actually only the audio was asked. So I told that to Fabiola, and she kindly offered to help me by doing a 5 minutes video giving her testimony of the exchange, and eventually I made some work that I hope that you will enjoy, and that's in the theater. So now we're going to go from Madrid to New York. So, about the exchange that you can see here. Well, it was actually very interesting to do that with Fabiola, because her and I weren't from the countries that we're living in. I mean, I'm French and I'm studying in the United States, in Spain, and she is from Venezuela, and she migrated to the United States at the age of 9. Both of us thought that we were an interesting, couple, because both of us were immigrants, even though we were from different kind of migrations. By that I mean that I'm coming from an Occidental country, a Western country, and she was from a country from Latin America, and she told me that she moved for political reasons, whether than I just moved for my studies and in a country that is just next to my home. So even though we migrated for different reasons, at the end both of us will live in a culture that isn't ours primarily. By that I mean that both of us had to get used to some fiestas here in Spain, or just days of holidays in the United States that we weren't used to, and we had to make it ours. And for example, what I think that was very interesting with Fabiola is that she told me that she would do, for example, Thanksgiving and eating Venezuelan dishes, because it's her way to, and her family's way to party and to feast. And I think that it was really interesting to see that part of the United States, like the melting pot that everyone is talking about in the United States. And I think that we both represent that immigration, that in our today's world we actually are representing that movement, and that even though I'm French and I'm living in Spain, it represents Europe, as Fabiola is living in the United States and is a Latino, so a Latin American citizen, let's say. I think that both of us were really interested by that, and we talked a lot about it. because, or thanks to the American elections, and we talked a lot about politics because we were right in the middle of it, and it's something that we both related to 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 our countries. Like for example, I really think that in in France the political situation is really similar to the political situation in the United States. And Fabiola was actually a bit scared because she she didn't want Trump to win, obviously, and she told me that she was very scared for the future, and I couldn't understand that because, for example, in France, I'm scared that Marine Le Pen could pass and being president, and she she in fact has ideas that really represent uh, that kind of nationalism and a rise of racism that isn't something that should still exist in the 21st century. So we've talked a lot about this, about the political situation in our countries and how it would affect us, and the similarities and the differences between sorry between both of our countries. But we talked a lot about the the colloquial expressions, the our holidays, and the different kinds of beliefs that we had in our countries. So, and it was actually very enriching to see how similar the American culture is from ours. And actually, I really thought that the American culture from the United States, I mean, was more similar to French culture or Spanish culture. But at the end, it really is the Venezuelan culture that I didn't know about that was the most similar because they've got Catholic holidays that we have in France or in Spain. And it was very interesting how in France it was how to say it, it was we used to to celebrate it and how they celebrate it in Venezuela, for example. And it was actually something that really made me realize that we by having the same religion at the beginning, we had at the end the same kind of holidays and almost the same way to celebrate it, except that in France, the country being less religious than Spain or Venezuela or the United States, we tend to forget a bit about the religious side and more having more cultural side by, I don't know, cooking a special cake for the Three Kings, for example, that we are not doing in Spain or in Venezuela because it's more religious, I think. And but it was really interesting to see that how both of us would at the end on the same days have the same holidays, and how even though we are two different sides of the planet, to, that we were very similar and that the differences were actually really small between the two of us. Um, and I think that this exchange was really enriching because it didn't we didn't only work together. We talked about our family, what we wanted to do in the future, and I think that it kept us close together. I mean, we laughed and we were very happy to see each other because after 2 months of correspondence by emails, seeing each other for real, even though it was by Skype, it was. I think that both of us really got along well, by emails, but also talking to each other. It was actually very nice, and I really appreciated it. And I think Fabiola did too, because I don't know. I actually feel that I've got a friend in in New York now, and that couldn't have been possible without that exchange. So now I'm leaving you. I'm going to be back for telling you what it gave me as what that exchange gave me, but more on the work base. Bye. So, what did this exchange gave me? What were the additional features that it gave me at the end? Well, I think that by doing this exchange, I was more open-minded, but it's only partly true because I'm doing this Erasmus exchange, and I'm learning a lot about stereotypes, and I don't know, the way that I see people, the way people see me as a French speaker and just as a French person. Like in Spain, people are usually telling me that, oh, French, oh, they're posh, and that kind of thing. But when they talk to me, they see that I'm not usually posh, and I'm not the French stereotypical idea that they had in mind. And it's the same for me. I mean, obviously I had some beliefs before coming to Spain, and I had stereotypical beliefs of the Americans, the way they talk, the way they think, and well, it's true that in France, for example, we are very critical about the United States because they represent, for a lot of person, consumerism, capitalism, and all that. But I could see that Fabiola wasn't embodying the American, like how we can think of the American. And she talked to me and she told me that it was partly true. Like every stereotypes are partly true, I think, at the beginning, but it's just from a part of the population and not everyone, obviously, because we're not all the same. Even in a family, we're not the same. So extending that to a country, it's just impossible to think that we could be how we could stick to stereotypes, you know. But it also gave me the chance to learn her culture and her cultures because she's from Venezuela and I'm the United States. And even though I knew a lot about the United States because I think that they are very influenced in our societies now in Europe, whether it is in France or in Spain, we all know films or series from the United States, and we know since we're little what is Thanksgiving. Well, we know that's a feast, a holiday, even though we don't really know the meaning. It was very interesting for me to learn that by a native, by Fabiola, who just celebrated every year, and she's so used to it that she could explain it to me easily. And I think that was an interesting fact. Like, it allows you to learn about cultures and history of another country just simply by talking and not by reading a book of 100 pages. Also, the idiomatic use of the language, of the English language, is very important, I think, because I didn't write the same way at the beginning that I wrote in English at the end, because I would imitate her way to say goodbye, for example, or she would do, I think, kind of the same in Spanish, because sometimes we spoke different Spanish as she comes from Venezuela. And that's from the cultural part. But we also talked a lot about the technological part, how technology brought us together, how it allowed us, even though we were from different side of the planet, like we could speak and being friends and just have a relation thanks to the internet, thing that we couldn't have done before. And we both said that it was kind of a paradox that in our country, that both our countries, in the United States and in France, people are closing their mind to the outside with this rise of nationalism that I've already talked about. And people want to close frontiers, build walls, and at the same time, everyone is using technology, and technology is really border free. It's something that is so free, and that it's. We both realized that it was a real paradox using technology in this world, and how our world could be so closing their minds and closing frontiers, and at the same time using technology that allows to do exactly the contrary. Um, and so I think that using technology, well, taught us that even though we knew it, that we lived in a globalized world, that technology just embodies the 21st century, and it's really something from our time. Um, and really, using technology taught me how to overcome problems, because you don't know how I've been having problems with my assignments. Like this one, I should have done something with MP3, and I'm ending doing something a bit different. And so it it gives you the opportunity to be creative and to learn how to, well, how to, I don't know, how to overcome problems, but in life in general, I think too, because when you can't do something straight, what you've got to do is just doing the other way round, like turning the problem upside down and see how you could solve it. And that's what I think I've learned in that class. And also, I've been doing some hard hard well um, I've been looking for informations on the internet about, well, technologies, how to use iMovies, for example, or other kind of apps and that kind of stuff, that and something that I'm doing on a daily basis. But with this class, I had to know how to collect information, how to class everything. Like this site, well, the website, I think, is not very trustworthy, and I don't know if I can use it, but if I can trust that website, if it wouldn't give me a virus or something in that kind of ambito. And well, I think you've got my point. I really like this class, and I think that it was really interesting to work not only theoretically, but to practice a lot and make a lot of mistakes and try to solve them. And I think that's what Margarita wanted us to do. So don't you worry, I've done a lot of mistakes. Now I'm going to show you what Fabiola had to say about the exchange and what she produced, and I hope that you will enjoy it. Thank you.
Ok. Este intercambio era una experiencia positiva donde yo tenía la oportunidad de hablar con alguien que vive 1.000.000 de millas desde mi casa. El intercambio servía como una oportunidad para hablar con un hablante nativo de español, pero a mí me tocó alguien que también está tratando de aprender español. Aunque este fue el caso, creo que esta experiencia de tener a alguien que no es de España me sirvió bien. Creo que lo que es interesante de nuestra situación es que ambos no somos de los lugares donde estamos viviendo. Yo soy de Venezuela y Charlie es de Francia, como I'm sure y'all know. Por este caso nosotros teníamos por este caso nosotros teníamos la oportunidad de saber sobre más culturas diferentes. Yo hablé sobre mi cultura e historia venezolana y Charlie hablaba sobre la cultura en Francia. Opino que esta situación es una buena representación de nuestro tiempo, mostrándonos la diversidad y la globalización del mundo. Era interesante ver las razones diferentes donde alguien se mude a un país nuevo. Para mí, yo me mudé cuando era joven por razones políticas y Charlie se fue a España para la universidad. Podríamos hablar sobre cómo nosotros estamos asimilando la cultura de nuestro país de origen en nuestras vidas ahora en un país nuevo. También hablamos sobre cómo estamos aprendiendo las prácticas en este país, en el país que estamos viviendo. Por ejemplo, podríamos hablar sobre cómo nosotros, por ejemplo, yo hablé sobre cómo todavía celebramos los días festivos de Venezuela en mi casa y comemos comida venezolana. También podíamos comparar las prácticas de Latinoamérica de los de Francia, que son similares. Un ejemplo era que el Tooth Fairy no es un hada en nuestros países, sino es un ratón. Otra cosa era como todavía estamos interesados a la vida política en nuestro propio país de origen. Pero también Charlie me enseñó cosas de España, hablando sobre las prácticas de España. Y también me enseñó sobre las expresiones, pero necesitaba preguntar a sus compañeros de piso para ayuda en expresiones coloquiales de España. I'm going to switch to English to talk about the next point, which Charlie and I thought was very interesting, was how this project shows the diversification of our world, not only in the immigration sense, but also the technological sense. This project years ago wouldn't have been possible in such the timely fashion that it was, although, emails weren't always sent in a timely fashion. It would have been much longer years ago. The impact technology has made in our world, in making our world closer, was something that interested both of us. And I think that this exchange really exemplifies the impact that technology has. For now, I have this friend in Spain, from France, in Spain, that I would have never met before if it weren't for it. One thing that Charlie and I discussed during this interaction was the political situation in the US and France. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been as interested as I am in what is happening in France right now. And then although I believe the real way you can really gain knowledge on a country's culture is by traveling there and experiencing it for yourself, this exchange, I would say, is the next best thing. Even though I can easily Google current news about a country's culture, establishing a connection with another person adds a more personal feeling to the subject and to the culture and to the country in general. It's incredible that I can know so much about a country by having this opportunity to talk to someone who currently is living there, and this feat would be nearly impossible if it weren't for technology.